Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, Ko-Fi and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Righteous Force, Neil, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, am I in the right place?
Everyone. Morning. You're in the right place, Neil.
Well, you are in the right place. Neil's been moaning because there's been discussion of things like the Netherlean and what else was there in the pre-show? Tendons of
Robertson Genis.
Robertson Genis, yeah, there's been all sorts of stuff. But apparently, Robertson Genis has got a lot of the new wave flat Earth nonsense when it comes to ether tied up in some of his rhetoric in his 1,400-page book or whatever it is. So therefore, apparently we should be paying more attention to Robertson Genis. Now, Robertson Genis is a name that I'm reasonably familiar with from about quite literally 10 years ago. One of the very early people on this scene. So who of you lot is familiar, or are you all unfamiliar with Robertson Genis and who he is and what he does?
I've seen, I think, some debate between him and I don't know if it was Rob Skiba or he was debating somebody, so I listened to him.
He's been on Witsit's channel too. Witsit is in lockstep with him.
Okay, and should we read any meaning into the fact that we've got certain allegiances between a geocentrist, which is what Robertson Genis is, and Witsit? Does that matter?
I'm not enough into this topic to make anything of that.
Let's do some housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Negative. That would not be possible.
Negative, yeah. When we are on the topic of the curvature, I don't know if you were here, Nathan, while we were just discussing. I had a little experiment, and I wanted to kind of query or poll the house to see if anybody already heard about it. I invented it in my head, but probably exists already. I don't know if you were listening to while I was trying to introduce it.
Well, I'll read out this super chat, then you can reintroduce it for the live audience. Jardo says, "Hi, legends. My wife kicked me out from Discord before. She's trying to keep asleep. There goes my 1 in 6 month chance to participate." Well, thank you for the super chat anyway, Jardo. I really appreciate it. Right, fill us in.
Yeah, okay. So usually I'm mathematician, so I'll just try to do this as simple as possible. You'll probably recognize it. So imagine if it was a ball and you had the axis of rotation of the ball Earth, and you stuck onto this axis like a hand and pointed it towards some star. So you should be able to keep that hand stuck to the axis of the rotation of the Earth, pointed at any star throughout an entire day, without any change in the angle between this hand and the axis of the Earth. Agreed?
No, I'm not following along with that at all, but fine.
So just imagine the Earth is on its axis of rotation. Imagine this axis of rotation is like a long...
I can't. I'll tell you why. As soon as you say axis...
No, just keep following. Keep
Okay.
following. This is hypothetical. It's not trying to prove that it exists. I'm trying to build it up towards an experiment.
Okay,
that
so
should,
imagine an axis with respect to a horizontal plane of reference. Okay, I'm imagining that axis. Go ahead.
you can do that as well. So if you, on the ball Earth, you have this axis and you literally stick a hand to it and point this hand towards some star. On the ball Earth, you should be able to keep pointing this hand at any star of your choosing throughout the entire day without any problems. Agreed?
Does anyone in my panel follow along with this? Because I'm not following along with this at all.
Maybe I'm
No, but we
explaining
got
this
to be easy.
very
We got
fully.
to educate him.
I want to follow along with the example, and I can't. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm just slow this morning.
Oh my God. So the point of the example was, since obviously we cannot approach North Pole and use that, we could, from our point on Earth, wherever we are, we could stick a stick into the ground, stab a stick into the ground, point it at the North Star, and then just add an arm onto it. And if we were on a ball, which we aren't, I don't believe either, if we were on a ball, we should be able to track any celestial object, sun, moon, stars, whatever, throughout, as long as they are visible from the morning until they set. We should be able to track them with this arm without changing the angle between the arm and this stick that is pointed at Polaris. This should be true on the ball, but it should not be true on the flat Earth, because the celestial objects on the flat Earth are rotating above us, plus the refraction of the dome, etc. But they are definitely not moving, or shouldn't be moving, the same way that they are moving, that they should be moving on the ball Earth. So this simple, I call it the two-stick experiment. On the ball Earth, you should be able literally to stab one stick into the ground, point it at Polaris, and add an arm onto that stick. And without changing the angle on this arm, you should be able to track from the rise of any celestial object until it sets on the ball Earth, but not on the flat Earth. I suppose that maybe this already exists, or maybe I discovered something new. But maybe I explained that really badly.
Well, once you got that angle, you know it's flat.
Both your examples
Can you?
are flat plane.
You are cutting off really badly for me.
One more time, John.
You're not conceptualizing a ball, you're conceptualizing a flat plane versus a flat plane.
Yeah, I did try and get that across to him before his example started.
No, I'm not conceptualizing a flat plane versus a flat plane. I've devised an experiment which behaves differently in the ball Earth model than it
Not
does
an experiment.
in the flat. What?
It's
It's not an experiment.
Why is it not an experiment?
Experiment is a
Because there's no
hypothesis
cause
test.
and
That's why. It's a cause and effect
But
relationship.
this is a hypothesis and a test.
Okay.
The hypothesis is that if we were on a ball Earth, the behavior of should be such that you do not have to change the angle of the arm. But if we are on a flat Earth, you would have to change the angle to track the movement of the celestial objects. So it's
that's not a cause-effect relationship.
All right.
it is a
but
cause and
define
effect.
angle.
No, your if statement is your presumed cause. You said if we're on a ball Earth. Okay.
Yeah.
How in nature do you vary ball Earth? It's not a variable that you can vary, therefore it's not an if suppositional statement in a hypothesis that would be considered scientific to be called an experiment. That's why they're objecting to you.
Okay. I'm maybe not
Also,
fully following
the
what you're trying to
angle-
say. Yeah, go ahead.
We'll get on to why we're objecting
Also,
in a minute.
the angle.
Just so you know, we're not being pedantic. Go ahead, John.
Also, the angle that you're referring to, getting from the surface, requires a flat plane. So your suppositional like
No,
they
no,
pointed
it
out.
doesn't.
It's not a
It
so
does.
stick.
It does not require flat plane. No, it does not require. It does not require flat plane because that beginning of the experiment, or not an experiment, wherever it is, when you stick the first stick into the ground and you point it at Polaris, the Polaris is fixed in both the ball Earth and the flat Earth models. So this first stick is well defined.
Oh, no,
What was that?
no. Are you getting an angle to something from the surface? Yes or no?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
No, I'm not negating any kind of an angle. The first step in the process, I won't call it an experiment, is you stick a stick into the ground and such that it points towards Polaris. Is this well defined or not?
He didn't ask you if you were negating anything, so that wasn't the question.
Just sorry to interrupt, guys, and just do a couple of quick shout outs. Shout out to Unitoxfermi, who says it's easier to do with drop over distance. Thank you for the super chat. Also, Jardo, who's also just gifted 10 memberships out. So thank you very much to all the people who've just picked up memberships. I'm sure on their behalf, they're thanking you, Jardo. Go ahead, my guys. Feel free.
So he didn't ask you if you were negating anything. It's just that, like, you know, a lot of people in this conversation, like the whistle past the most important part, as if, you know, it's inconsequential or doesn't matter, like it's going to switch the, you know, somebody's argument. It's like, no, just acknowledge what John said. Don't say that you're not acknowledging it and then move beyond it, because I'm sure that his response to you was a proper, but was a response specifically to what you were talking to. Don't blow past it.
Okay, my bad. If
Yeah, I
I
don't think
blew
he's
past something,
understanding
it
it.
was relevant. Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
it's definitely relevant. It's just all the
You're getting an
examples.
angle to Polaris.
The reason he's pointing it out to you, sorry to cut you off, John, is because all of the globe examples that to date get stacked up in false dichotomy, no offense, as you have done, are actually examples that utilize measurements of a flat plane in the first instance. It's just globe believers don't appreciate it.
Okay, fair enough. But I still didn't get any response as to if the first step that I've listed is valid on both the ball Earth model and the flat Earth model. Can I put a stick
you
in
know,
the
listen,
ground?
Why do you
What was
want to
that?
persevere in that? Why do you want to persevere in that? The answer to your question is that's not the first step. You can't make it the first step by ignoring the first step. So you need to change your language so that we know that you're being genuine. Like saying,
I'm sure he is.
okay,
Hold on.
after
I'm
the
sure he's not
first
being.
step.
I don't think he's being
I know.
disingenuous.
I'm
He's just not
s-
following
no,
along
no,
with
no.
our example yet. That's all.
Okay, but with his
Yeah,
language,
I'm
he
not.
needs to. With his language, he needs to let me know that. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna guess whether or not he's being genuine. What I'm saying is, when we point out, well, when you say my first step is, and we point out, no, that's not the first step. I need an acknowledgement.
Okay, what do you mean by that's not the first step? Because I'm trying to lay out some kind of
Perfect.
a process, and I'm saying
Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
that this is the
understanding.
Neil, stop. Go ahead, John. Try again.
All right. You said that you were going to take an angle from a stick. Now, I'm assuming the baseline of that angle will be the surface because the stick will be in the ground, right? So the ground will be involved in this, correct?
the ground will be involved in this, but the angle is not what is relevant. What is relevant is that the stick needs to point to Polaris. The angle is completely irrelevant.
So the basis of your attempted supposition is irrelevant?
The basis of my attempted supposition is irrelevant. How do you get to that? I'm not following you at all.
He's describing the angle that you're using in the first instance, and you're saying that's not relevant.
I was later on talking about the angle between this stick, which points towards Polaris, and the arm that is on this stick. But the initial first step that I posited was to just put a stick into the ground and make it point at Polaris, since in both models, Polaris isn't visually moving, it should be well defined to put a stick in the ground and point it at Polaris. So I'm not following what is the objection to that.
Are you going to
Can I
have an
try?
angle in both instances?
He used angle.
Excuse me, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat that?
Are you going to have an angle in both instances?
There will be an angle between this stick that is pointing towards Polaris and the arm that is on this stick. And the
Right,
angle
okay,
between the
so,
stick and
right,
the
right. So it is consequential then.
I'm not following you. What's your point?
Can I try?
Well, you're saying,
Sorry.
whatever.
Let me try this real quick. So the bottom line of the angle goes from where to where?
When I'm talking about the angle, there's only one angle that I mentioned. You have the
Right.
stick, it
Okay,
points
an
towards the
angle is two
star.
lines. He's asking you what the bottom
Exactly.
line angle is to.
The
bottom,
first
the line on the bottom.
the first
Where's
the first
that to?
line of the angle, the first line of the angle is the stick pointing at Polaris. The second line of the angle is the arm that you attach to the stick, which needs to point to any celestial object. If I
And where's the
explain that
end
well.
point? Where's the end point of that bottom line?
This first line is pointing towards Polaris. It's stuck into the ground at any point, irrelevant. The point where it's stuck in the ground could be anywhere on Earth.
Okay, and the bottom line of the angle, what's the end point of the bottom line?
End point of the bottom line. There are just two lines. The stick, which is stuck into the ground, points towards Polaris, and the other arm is stuck onto this first stick, and it points at a star or anything else in the sky. So I'm not quite sure what you mean by your question.
Let me try again. So the top line of the angle goes from the observer or from the ground to the star.
To
Right.
Polaris,
Yeah.
Specifically to Polaris, yes.
The bottom line of the angle goes from the ground to where?
When you say the bottom line, what do you mean by that? I'm not following you exactly. There are two lines, the stick that points towards Polaris and the arm. I call it the arm. The other line is the arm.
Do you have a diagram that I can share with the panel?
Yeah, I can draw it quickly. Just a second.
What
I'll just.
What
The
this
other
man is
line's
talking
gonna
about.
be on the ground.
Hang on, I've just come into this. What this man is talking about has to be a right angle triangle. It can't be just two lines,
Yeah.
just a normal angle. It has to be a right angle triangle. Now we don't know what the point of this is, as I said, it just came in, but it can't have just two lines. It must have 3 lines.
No, you
If
can
it's
have
celestial
only
bodies,
two.
you must have 3 lines. Yes, it always has to be an elevation angle with the celestial bodies, not just 2 lines. It always has to have
I
3
can't
lines. It
believe
always
that
has
I'm
to be a right angle
explaining
triangle.
this. Yeah, I can't believe I'm explaining this so poorly. Let me just mute myself for 2 minutes, 3 minutes until I manage to draw this on a diagram.
Well, when he tells us that the bottom line of the angle goes from the starting point to the horizon, we can then point out that he's using a flat earth.
Of course. Where else could the line be going? I don't understand this whole thing. I really don't. I'm trying hard.
I think what he's trying to do is point to 2 random points on the celestial sphere, one being Polaris and one being another celestial, and then ignore that he's using the celestial sphere concept to establish these angles.
Well, we
What's
do
the
know he's
purpose
not
of
up to date with the flat earth debate. Well, he's a new guy, Brian. I think it's his first time in here. So it's a lot of, debunking the globe. So I think he's trying to put a little, he called it an experiment that he has. So we're trying to hear him out.
What's the purpose of what he's saying? Is he trying to debunk the globe or prove the globe,
Yeah.
or what's he? Okay.
Yeah, he's a flat earther. So you
Well,
just
I
got to
think
be educated.
I think what John said is correct, though. I think he's trying to point one arm, one stick at Polaris, and the other stick at any other star, or some other star. I think that's what he's trying to do. So it won't be using.
Okay.
It won't be using. It'll be 2 points going diverging away from each other, and the Earth will be underneath it.
Well, he's going to draw a picture, so hopefully we'll see what he's talking about. Oh, but Brian, I wanted to bring it up. The guy in the pre-show brought up Robertson Jenis, and he's saying he's a key factor with his 1,400-page book. So you got to listen back and hear the whole thing of how that's where Whitsitt is getting all of his ether nonsense from. The guy's saying he could see where it's all coming from, and Robertson Jenis is the key. And it's funny because you and I were talking about it Saturday, remember?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to get back to you about that later on in the after show, okay?
Do a bit more housekeeping, see if that generates a bit more discussion.
Sure.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
I would love to see it. Hasn't been demonstrated yet. Blue Marble Science said he had gas pressure without containment, but I think he had 3 or 4 containers.
So, to the guy that was speaking earlier, what's your name? Vic something or other? How'd you say your name? Oh, he's not taking part.
Were you asking me?
Yeah.
Were you asking me?
Yeah, people jumped all over you because of your use of the word science, right? And I said, we'll come back to it because I don't want to seem pedantic in the middle of the discussion and point you're trying to make, right? But there was a very specific reason why people jumped on you when you used the word experiment. And if you're
No, that's okay. I have no problem. I have no problem with people objecting to stuff. Actually, I'm all for it. So, just
well, the main
keep
reason
at
is,
it if I
is
say
because we've
something.
been deceived in that regard, right? So we've actually been led to believe that we've got scientific validity for the globe Earth and such like, and we just haven't. So knowing what
Okay.
science
No,
is, go on.
as I'm saying, I have no problem with people jumping all over my arguments. Actually, I'm all for it. If I say something wrong, just have at it.
Yeah, it's common to do it though. It's not like it's you as an individual. It's just everybody does it.
No, that's perfectly fine. I'm just saying I have no problem with it. That's all good. I'm not made of porcelain, so I can take it. Here is my exceptionally good drawing. Let's
But
go.
when we did go through it in terms of the scientific method, did you follow along with what we were telling you?
I haven't been able to follow a few points where you were arguing why it's not an experiment. I didn't really catch what was the crux of the matter there.
Okay, well, in terms of what science is, if you understand what science is, you can then understand what it isn't. So when
Okay.
people say science, they're specifically dealing with the cause and effect relationship that you'd set up in an experiment. So the first step of that is to establish what you're actually studying. I observe a natural phenomena and ask, why is that happening? And that's normally where most people go wrong, because they'll start with something that either is a question of what is, as opposed to a cause and effect question, or they'll ask a question about something that's been induced by man, a man-made effect, a synthetic
Okay,
effect.
just a second. Don't go too deep into the rabbit hole. So related to what I was doing, I was trying to describe something which I called an experiment, which I wanted to relate to the question, why do the celestial objects move in the manner in which they move? So if you can relate it to how that is not an experiment, that will be much more helpful to me.
Well, like I say,
He's trying
to understand what is an experiment is to then understand what it isn't. So when you've used that term, so step one, observe natural phenomena. So in your example, there wasn't a natural phenomena being observed. You're just measuring angles to stars.
That's not exactly correct, because I'm observing the natural phenomenon of the celestial paths, and I'm asking
Perfect.
the question,
Okay.
why are they in the shape?
Just stop. Yeah, if you're observing the path of the stars, then the path of the stars is your effect that you're studying. Therefore, in the hypothesis, what you'll have is a presumed cause for that very specific effect. So the causal relationship is you suppose X will cause the movement of the stars in this instance, because that's the
Exactly.
So are you varying an independent variable to manipulate the movement of the stars? No.
I'm not following you exactly. With what do you mean? Am I varying an independent variable? Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So after step 1, you've observed something occurring in nature that you want to know why that happened. Step 2 is to suppose what you think causes that effect. So first you establish something called a dependent variable. That's a naturally occurring phenomenon. Then you suppose a cause that you can vary as a researcher, and that's called the independent variable. By the time you've got those two things, you've then formulated, by default, something called a scientific prediction, otherwise known as a hypothesis. And the hypothesis states what you think causes the effect you observed in nature. That would be if...
Okay. I'm following you now. Okay.
Right. So to understand that to formulate an experiment is to suppose an if and then relationship with something observed in nature, you can then formulate a null alongside it, which is a statement that says, if my supposed cause, then I won't induce the effect I'm studying. That's called a null hypothesis or zero difference result. And a scientific prediction...
I apologize. I have a crying toddler. I will just jot off for a few minutes and I'll be right back. I apologize.
No worries. But for the audience's benefit...
And the second...
For the audience's benefit, just to round that out, once you've got both sides of the prediction, that's if A, my presumed cause, then B, the effect that I've observed in nature, and a null, if my presumed cause, then I won't induce the effect observed in nature, then you've got a scientific prediction. And upon variation of your presumed cause, you can either induce the effect or not induce the effect, and therefore validate one of the two suppositional statements, proving your prediction. That's science, as opposed to false dichotomies, what-if questions, and so on and so forth.
And to the two models, we know how all the models, what measurements created those models, or what they're called models. They're not really models, but we know how they were formed. So when you say angle, it triggers something in us because we know what's getting ready to happen, which will be a false dichotomy.
So Jardo sent a super chat but has retracted the message. So I don't know what he actually said. But thank you for the super chat, Jardo. Really appreciate all the support today. So yeah, again, just to round that out, when he was laying down his example, all I'm hearing, the first thing he said was axis, right? We all heard axis. Well, John, if you beg my indulgence, what goes through your mind when you hear axis?
Yeah, plane of reference.
Yeah, a description that requires a plane of reference for the axis to be described from. So immediately you're into the requirement of a flat plane. So conceptually, for me, it's a real struggle when you're like, no, I'm describing how it works in the globe model. I'm like, I can't even conceptualize a globe model now when I try and tie it to a reality that we actually experience, because in that reality, we start with measurements of a flat plane to describe the axis of rotation of a sphere Earth. It makes no sense. So I literally struggle to conceptualize globe models now because I know what the Earth's measured as. How can you conceptualize I can't even say it now. How can you conceptualize a flat plane not being that when that's what you're measuring? It's a struggle for me, personally. I just can't do it anymore. When someone says globe model, two things that ring through my head. The first I've just went through. The second is QE going, okay, show it us. What model?
Yeah, but I think an important thing is the scientific method. That's what we're talking about in the churches too. I think they need to understand what the scientific method is. I think everything relies on that.
Yeah. The reason everybody is deceived into using this terminology, wishy-washy and incorrectly, like experiment or science, is because the trick of the globe is to convince you that they've got science. Well, why would they want to do that? Well, because the method I just explained, with a scientific prediction incorporating a null, always offers proof at the end of the process. Without exception, you can only validate one of the two statements. You can only prove one of the statements is true. That is to say, it offers proof. Well, if you've got a methodology that offers empirical evidence, that's proof, for a suppositional statement, then you can hijack that without letting anybody know how the method actually works and say you've done an experiment, because then in the mind's eye of the listener, you've proven something. When in reality, if it sits outside the methodology I described, that is cause and effect reasoning based on a hypothesis with a naturally occurring phenomena, then it's pseudoscience if it's claiming to be an experiment or claiming to have a hypothesis, and it doesn't do those things I've just detailed. Then it's, by definition, pseudoscience, a claim that has not adhered to the scientific method. So, everything outside of the scientific method that's claimed to be science isn't. Now, when you cast your mind to the science of Timotei shampoo or the science of Dunlop or Michelin tyres and the grip that they offer when they measure things, that's maths, you can see where the trick is used in a much more, let's say, friendly way, marketing. Yeah? It's not as malicious. They just want to flog tyres when they tell you they've done the science. Well, no, they haven't. They've taken some measurements. But you hear a word that you've been trained in school to understand means proof. So when Dunlop tyres are scientifically shown to be given the best grip on the track, you think it's proven that they give the best grip because that's what the marketeers said. In reality, they're hijacking a method that offers empiricism for marketing reasons. And that's the same for the globe. Now that we'll get from the friendly, as I call it, marketing reasons to bullshit with science, the globe does it. We were told when we first got here that the whole body of science proves we're on a globe. No, it absolutely doesn't. It's a category error. So what is question? It's not a cause and effect relationship. It's not even open to scientific inquiry. It is open to mathematical inquiry. That is to say, measurement. When you open it up to mathematical inquiry, Earth is measured flat. So to conceptualize sphere Earths that have been described to be scientifically proven, outrageous, it's important to understand why we would jump on somebody when they say they've got an experiment, even if they're trying to juxtapose it with a globe Earth that fails and an angle to a flat Earth that is only possible in both sides of the example. But to use science is an affront to what we do here, hence we've all jumped on you. But I just thought it was worth a lengthy explanation, despite of your kids
The image
distracting you.
isn't.
Go ahead, Neil.
Sorry, Nathan. The image is in Master B, and John was right. Hello?
Sorry, I'm just bringing up things on screen to talk about. So QE Live will be going out. So QE's also sent us a message. And he will be going out live at 6 p.m. UK, because we haven't had our clocks changed yet here in the UK. And I believe it's 1 p.m. US Central. So be here or be sphere for QE Live, open discussion on the Quantum Eraser channel. So I do actually get to do a proper plug for it, as it's Tuesday, we are live, and his show is obviously following this one later on this evening. So check him out, be here or be sphere. I'm sure people will hopefully put links to his channel at the very least, although he hasn't published his show yet, or typically doesn't. You all going to be on open discussion later this evening, gentlemen?
Yes, we'll be discussing the Witsit and you. We are going over that. It's gonna be a treatment.
Well, it's had a rehearsal, so I recorded the dress rehearsal and published it to members yesterday. So you were going through, but just with language that was just so beyond wanting to put out to the public. It'll never make it as a public video because of the language. But it's a members video, so you can check that out if you want to see it. Call it a dress rehearsal, but QE going through Witsit gets its various nonsense, but just with all the blue language that we'd use if we weren't being recorded, even though we were. Anyway, check that out if you
I did
remember.
not know that, or I would not have cussed as much.
Well, once you get into a bit, so Brian asked at one stage, he's like, "You recording?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Is the Discord server here?" I'm like, "No." So he's like, "Okay, right." Then he goes through a particular point of order that he didn't want recording or didn't want to be sharing because it's something he's currently doing that he hasn't published yet. Fine. But once that was done and QE brought up the video and I'm doing the dishwasher and stuff and this, it's just you in the background. As soon as I heard him recording, as soon as I heard the recording of what he was going through, I'm like, it's quite nice to actually catch you guys going through things in a very naturalistic way. Now, that happens to be very sweary, because that's how we are. I sometimes slip probably more than you guys do on the actual live shows. But no, there was nothing secretive about what we were doing, and it was effectively a dress rehearsal for what QE will be doing on Quantum Eraser Live this evening. Just he'll do it without the blue language. But there was something quite special about that, going through it without necessarily thinking that, I need to be concerned. And I always have my disclaimer that if I'm here on recording, you should be aware. I'm not going to be here for any other reason. I happen to have disclaimed to Brian maybe an hour or two prior that I wasn't at that particular moment, which I wasn't. That was not a lie. So anyway, that's available for members. Like I say, it'll probably never reach the public because of the language.
You can help
Did
me.
you
I was
get
wondering.
that guy's image yet?
Hold on. I think either Elder Bear's hot micing or he's got something he wants to ask.
No, I was just wondering. I wondered if they're on, FED somewhere there was a resource that might show me where the globe model is common, where the commonalities of the globe model are with the flat Earth that you describe. I wonder if that might help me to understand which bits, from the globe model correlate to the flat Earth. I know you don't call it a model, but there are lots of images and ideas, and there seems to be a lot of commonalities. And I wondered if there was some resource somewhere that would say, yes, this we agree with, this we don't agree with.
Well, there's a couple of things that spring to mind. One is latitude. The other is the
We don't
Haversine
agree with
formula.
anything.
My bad, Neil. The Haversine formula is a conversion to curved. Are you aware of that, first of all?
No, I can look into that. I was just wondering because it seems to me, it's like Brian's doing a map, for instance. It just looks like the globe squashed flat, with all the things. And I think, well, they did say that none of this has been proven. We don't know anything about that model, and we refute that model, but it seems to be central to the images of the models and the descriptions that you give. And so I get a bit confused on that because, it seems like it's a reification of something that you deny exists.
No, you have it all backwards, Elder Bear. The measurements that created the globe mathematically, because the globe is purely mathematical, those measurements are flat plane measurements. They're flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. That's what gives us the latitude and longitude grid. That latitude and longitude grid is then mathematically turned into a sphere of radius 3958, etc. miles.
I thought nobody had measured that. It couldn't be proven.
It's measured all the time. People measure longitude all the time.
Yeah, but nobody's seen the all. That's what I mean. How can you have an image of the all and put it onto a flat construction of a map, like a model, if nobody's seen it, nobody's measured it, nobody knows really anything about it?
The thing that you're talking about, right? The globe that you're talking about, that's a mathematical hijacking of the original measurements. Every time someone makes one of these
Right.
measurements, they're using a flat plane.
But how do
So
you
when-
how would you know that if
when-
nobody's seen it?
Because the
It's
way
done all the
let
time.
me just
It's
answer him. He's
constantly
asked 3
done.
times, Brian. Because that's how
Yeah.
an angle measurement works. That's how an elevation angle measurement works. It has to be
Yeah,
flat
and
for you to take that angle
But then
measurement.
you're relating it to the globe, aren't you?
No, we're not.
No, we're not to do with the globe.
Well, you're polar centric. You're polar centric.
The globe
That's
is.
correct, because things are polar
If you go
centric, yeah.
if you go east or west, you go in a circle.
That's correct.
But
Yeah, that's
nobody
happens
knows
in
what
reality.
it is.
What is?
Yeah, well, what does it though? Because nobody's done it in reality. You said so.
We
Done
do
what?
it in. Hold
Let
on.
me-
You
hang
keep
on,
saying.
Nathan,
Hold on,
hang on,
Brian.
Nathan,
Hold
let me
on.
take
Everyone,
this a
stop.
second, please.
Stop.
Please.
You keep
All
saying we don't do it in reality. That is our system of
But where-
navigation, though. We do use latitude and longitude grid, and it is measured daily. What are you talking about? Why do you keep saying we don't
we
use
point-
it when we do?
We point to a light in the sky to find the direction we want to go in. But that doesn't tell you all, does it? Doesn't tell you everything.
Tells you the direction
But
you're
it
going
seems to
in on
me
a
that
map.
you have a
When you say
Well, you
making
have-
these
you are
generalizations,
polar-
Edabear, I'm just trying to clarify. When you say doesn't tell you everything, no, it doesn't tell you how to make a great cup of coffee. It does tell you how to move
it
around
doesn't-
on a map with respect to the
it doesn't
angles
tell you
to those lights
everything.
in the sky with respect to positions on the ground, otherwise
It
known
wouldn't
as
give you a map of the. a
Why is he
map of all
chattering through
existence,
me?
would it?
What is your
I have
malfunction?
to know.
What's your
Let me have a go,
malfunction?
Nathan.
Last chance.
To derail a show.
Yeah, just make it into a shit show, right, Elderbear?
No, let me have a go.
Just asking. I'm
Elder
trying to
Bear.
understand.
No, what you're
that's
doing is
all.
jabbering
Elderbear.
through the top of me while I'm explaining something to you. Talking about how we actually use the angles with respect to positions on the ground. Now, you're like, it doesn't explain everything. Okay, yeah, it's nice to hear that through the middle of my statements. Wonderful. I'm really pleased to have the interruption from you telling me that it doesn't tell you everything, some generalization. No, it tells you how to move around the ground. And people successfully navigate with these systems that are flat by nature. The angles necessitate the ground be flat. No other way can you acquire elevation angles. There you go. Finally got to the end without jabbering through the middle of it.
Okay. So the globe that's on the table, that's only for not for educational use. You could just roll that out flat, and that's it. Is it? Is that what you're saying?
No.
No,
It's okay to
nobody.
use the globe, but
No,
just lay it out flat.
literally nobody.
please.
Literally nobody said that. So is this another
Yeah,
one
but
of
if I
those?
look at Brian's,
Are they perpendicular? Because that's what you're saying. Because you've just told us that we roll out balls that have got acquisition from a shop that's a toy shop. Roll out ball flat. Nobody said that. Literally nobody said that.
well, Brian's new map looked like
Well,
that,
if-
and most
if
of
he
those
wants-
maps
Yeah,
do
that's
look
why I
like
want
that.
to address
Like the
him.
globe has
That's why
been
I want to
squashed
address him,
flat,
Nathan, because he's
which
bringing up
wouldn't
my
be
map.
possible, by the way. And
Yeah, hang on.
so I wonder when you don't know anything about Polaris and its geographical position, because it's not ground position, it's geographical. You already said nobody knows where that is, but you
Which
placed
means
it in the
ground.
center of your model.
Geographical means point
The same,
on the
just the
earth.
same, and you don't even know where it is or if it exists.
What we don't know what is or if what exists.
Well, any of that stuff on the map.
It's just a generalization. Any of the stuff on the map.
Hang on.
Yeah, we do know
Yeah.
stuff exists on the map. He's just making these
please.
crappy generalizations, Brian. It's
Hang on.
annoying.
Nathan, please leave me
Then
out.
you know everything. Then you know the all.
Elder Bear, please, everyone. Elder Bear, right? Because Elder Bear, right? You said that east and west are perpendicular to north, right?
Yeah.
Right. So if I want to go from Ireland, if I want to go to the United States, I must go east or I must go west. If I want to go to Asia, I must go east, right? If I'm in America and I want to go to Asia, right, without crossing Europe, I must go west, right? So how can someone in America go west and end up in Asia, and me go east and end up in Asia, if east and west are two opposite ends of a straight line? A straight line doesn't meet. There's no meeting with a straight line.
Yours go in a circle, your straight lines.
Never mind what I do. You're making a claim that east and west are perpendicular
No, I'm just
to north.
asking.
That means they never meet. That means they never meet.
Well, I couldn't imagine that they, that if they're straight lines and they're perpendicular, I
So
can't
they never
imagine
meet.
they'd go in
So
a
you're claiming
circle.
they never meet. So you're claiming they never meet, which means that someone in
I
America
don't know.
can't go west.
I don't know whether they
Can't go
do
west and
any
get to
more than
Asia,
you
and
know.
someone in Ireland or
Hang on,
Britain
Brian.
can't go east and get to Asia.
No, I didn't say
You
that.
seem,
I said I
yes,
don't
you
know
did.
that,
Right
You
and
to
you
said
you,
don't
Brian.
either.
perpendicular to north. That's what you say. Now, I've just have to shown everyone how much absolute rubbish that is, and how easily it is to destroy that claim.
But so you know that if you go east, you go in a circle. Is that what you said? You know that.
Yes, it's proven by the fact that you can go west from America and end up in the same place that you can go east from in Ireland. You can't. Otherwise, east and west are a straight line, and a straight line can never have the two ends meet.
Look, if Edinburgh wants to deny circumnavigation, that's fine.
He's trying
it's
to
called
say that east and west is a straight line. He's trying to say that
I'm
east
just
and west
trying to
never
work
meet.
out whether. I'm just trying to work
Why
out
are you
whether
arguing
globe.
about this when the same
Just trying
thing
to tell
happens
us.
both on the ball Earth model and on the flat Earth model? The same thing happens. If you go
Same.
east,
We don't have a
west,
model.
you end up at the
There is
same
no
Oh,
place.
really?
Please,
I was about to
please leave it
say.
Oh,
Please leave Elderbear off. I want to hear what Elderbear has to say, please.
Well, it was a very good point that the
About what?
guy just made.
Hang
Because he
on.
talked about.
Leave
He's
Elderbear
talking.
off.
I'm just trying to work out. I'm just trying to
Why
work out
leave
where the
him
globe
off?
ends.
Because you're saving him.
I'm not
I'm
saving
trying to
him.
work out where
Like,
the
is
globe.
there something fundamentally that he's
Forget
saying
about
that
it.
doesn't
Just
make
forget
sense?
about it. Just forget about it. Forget
thanks,
about
Eli.
it.
Thanks for
Yeah, just
derailing
forget
that.
about it.
I'm
Let's
not
forget about
derailing
it.
it.
Yeah, it totally derailed it. I asked you no to leave it off and you wouldn't.
Oh well, Brian,
All
that's
right.
what happens.
We could have
Never
got
mind.
back to it.
Never
Hold
mind.
on. We could have got back to it.
I'll go
Just
back
let
to some
Brian finish
research.
with other bit.
Okay.
And then we'll get back to that guy's claim.
All right. I'll wait 35 minutes. Sure. Go ahead, Brian.
I don't
That's
need the
not fair,
sarcasm either.
Eli.
Well, I was trying to get in before, too. So, okay, I'll wait.
Yeah, but
again.
Elderbear has been addressing me. I was addressing Elderbear on his claim yesterday, right? And then he tried to say it wasn't his claim yesterday, and he's trying to do the same thing today when it is his claim. And he's been addressing me in comments underneath my post, my community post, in the past 24 hours. So Elderbear, you're claiming that east and west are two ends of a straight line. So how can someone in America go west and end up in the same place that I can go east from and end up there? How is that possible if they're a straight line? Because I can't go in a completely opposite direction to the other person unless it's a circle and and we both end up in the same place.
No, and I can't either.
Didn't ask you.
No, but it's obvious that they're not a straight line. I mean,
straight line? Please, hang on, please. How are you working out
because
this
the
straight line?
cardinals-
How can east and west be two? How can east and west be perpendicular to north? You're claiming a
because they're
straight line. That
cardinal
means that can
directions,
never
they
meet.
are.
You're claiming this, Elderbear. This is your bullshit claim
Because
that east and
because
west are
they're cardinal
perpendicular to north.
directions.
You've taken this claim on, and now you're trying to
No.
avoid supporting it.
No.
See
From
where
what I've
trolling
heard
gets
is
you
that
and
the
not
globe-
understanding the claim.
globe-
You see where you don't. You see where not
All right,
understanding
you
what
talk
you're
over me,
talking about
Brian.
gets you.
Bye. You talk over me, Brian, like you tell me not to talk over you. Okay? Carry
Go
on.
on.
I'll find the resources and I'll come back and ask another question. I just want to know
No.
where the
Let's go
globe,
through this,
where the
Elderbear.
globe
This
model.
is your claim.
All right, do it again. Bye.
No worries.
Yeah.
Thank
See
God.
you later. Yeah. Do you see what happens when people come here with rubbish claims that they got from someone else? I know where he got that claim, and that other person never gave it any thought, and now Elderbear never gave it any thought, and now he's coming here trying to troll us, not realizing what
this
he's
is-
what
No,
he's
he's
claiming.
just decided he's going to rumpus you anyway. He bid goodbye at his failure point, and now he's deciding to continually rumpus while you summarise his garbage argument that he failed with.
Yeah.
Right.
He wants to derail the show.
Wherever I
Leave him
hit,
off.
Can you
Leave him
please stop,
supporting you.
Edinburgh, please can you stop
Wherever
derailing the
I-
show? You said you were going to disappear.
well, Brian gets all
I-
over me because he said I shouldn't talk over him, and he does exactly the same.
Well,
so
you just
what's the
started
point?
talking through him, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Elderbear.
Brian.
Go-
Just
go
carry
ahead,
on your point.
Elderbear.
Carry on, Brian. Brian.
I'm trying to leave here for Elderbear.
I'm just trying to
Suppose he
work
said-
out where the globe ends and the flat Earth begins, having been
The globe
told
doesn't
that the
exist.
globe is an unsubstantiated model. But you use the globe and integrate that into the flat Earth model.
No, we don't.
And I'm a bit
I
confused
don't
about that.
have
And
a
I'm
flat
just
Earth model, and I don't
interested.
use any globe because it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
I can't
but
use
you're
something that
drawing
doesn't
one,
exist
Brian.
anywhere.
Your map will show one. But anyway, know,
No, my
that,
map
that
will
all
show, Mo,
comes
the
in-
map I have, you just made a claim there. My map, right, is taking a hijacked projection, right, and trying to put it back into its original form. Now,
I know you
you
don't make
made a
any
claim
claims, but
that
there's
East and
lots of
West are
images
on a
put
straight
out.
line. You have to support that.
Well, that's
Or
what
else I'm going to have to ask you
logically appears in my mind. Because if the,
Yeah, but
if the
what about your
globe
East
doesn't
and West
exist,
claim,
and
Elder
you
Bear?
said it doesn't
You
exist
said
in
East
the
and West were
model that's
perpendicular to north.
presented, then I have to wipe that out. Yes.
Hang on, you said East and West was perpendicular to north.
It's
That was
mapped
your
that
claim.
way. If you go, yeah, if you use the maps like in the UK, that's how that's how the grid is: north, south, east, west.
No,
Perpendicular.
you're getting mixed up. You're getting mixed up with the XY grid and the compass.
I have a
That's
question
XY.
when it's appropriate.
One
to
second,
that,
please. One
whenever
second.
you're free.
Hang on, one moment. Leave us go through this.
Well, that's
You're
all I
getting
want. I
mixed
was
up,
just trying to
Elder Bear, with
work
the XY
out
grid.
the
That's an XY grid.
crossover. That's 2D. I'm just trying to work out where it crosses over.
No, I'm
Right,
trying
that
to
was
work out
all.
how
It
you're
just seems to
claiming
me
that
that
East and West are perpendicular to north. I know you're not supporting it, that claim.
because they
Where is
because
your support for that?
because they're the cardinal. They're the cardinal directions. That's
They're not
what I've
cardinal
always known it
directions.
to
There's
be.
only one cardinal direction, that's north. There's only one cardinal direction. Now, you're claiming the East and West are perpendicular to north. That makes them a straight line. Two opposite ends of a straight line.
How do you know they're not? How do you know they're not?
Because I can go west from America and end up in Asia. I can go east from Ireland and end up in Asia. How is that possible if it's a straight line? Straight line. The
That's
two
the
ends of a straight line don't ever meet.
Niels.
I can't do that. I haven't
You
done
can't
that
do
myself,
what?
so yeah. Well, I
Well,
haven't
you
done
can't do
that, so
what?
I can't say that that is true. Go in a circle, go east and come back to where I started. I don't know that I can do that.
Well, then you're
So that
claiming, but you
means-
claimed it's a straight line, Elder Bear. How can someone go west from America and end up in Asia, and me go east from Ireland and end up in Asia if east and west are two opposite ends of a straight line? Straight lines, the two ends of a straight line never meet.
Yeah, but they're straight lines, aren't they?
Yeah, but they don't meet. They are two ends of it. I don't care if they're a straight line. The two ends of a straight line don't ever meet, and you're claiming that they must.
So that's common with the
that's
globe
inference.
then. Those straight lines curve, go in a circle.
No, that came from a
That's
flat
just
earth
commonality.
first.
They're not
We
straight
keep,
lines.
hold
You're
on.
claiming they're straight
No,
line.
let me just correct him, Brian.
He's claiming
No,
they're a straight line.
hello,
He has yet
hello,
to support they're a
hello,
straight line.
hello. No, those lines came from angle measurements off a flat earth first. You keep saying from a globe.
Yeah, but that hasn't been
don't go
measured.
into that. Don't take the red herring, Nathan.
that too.
Don't.
There isn't
Elder Bear,
a flat
you're
earth to
claiming that
measure.
east
You
and west
haven't
are
done
two
that.
opposite ends of a straight line.
Yeah, in my yes. To me, they are. Yes.
Sorry
To you they are, but that doesn't mean they are. So it means that you don't. To you, two ends of a straight line can meet.
What do you think, geeks? Do you think straight through the middle of
turning into a
Brian
bit
is
of
the
a-
right time to talk? No,
Yeah, he can't
obviously
shut up
not.
forever.
Yeah, I was just trying to. That's all I'm trying to do, Brian, is work out which bits
But
of the
that's not
globe
what you're
I
trying
can
to do, Elder Bear.
incorporate
You're trying to
into
come
the
in here and make
flat Earth.
claims and not support them.
I'm
When
telling you
you
about
say
what I understand it
perpendicular,
to
that's
be.
a very specific claim.
But you claim it's that. You're claiming that. This is the cutting edge of flat Earth knowledge, isn't it?
Now, I don't need ad homs, right? An insult.
It's not an ad hom. It's a statement.
Right.
It's a
You
statement
claimed
made the other day.
yesterday that east and west were perpendicular to north. Perpendicular.
Well, they
right,
are, aren't they?
That is
On the cardinal
that is
directions,
90-degree angle.
perpendicular.
That's 90-degree angle.
Yeah, well, that's
That's
what you
straight
do
lines.
when you. All right. So if you some Indio talked to me the other day, and he said, if I face east, he took me to the Eiffel Tower. I don't know why he did that. If I faced east and I put my left arm out pointing at the Eiffel Tower, if I walk east, he said I'll go round in a circle round the Eiffel Tower.
Right. Well, am I Indio? You said that
No,
east
well,
and
I
west
just
were two
don't know.
opposite
From
ends of a
there,
straight line. You said
there, I
that east and
imagine
west
that
were
I
two
would
opposite ends of a
walk.
straight
Oh,
line.
God.
When you said they were perpendicular
Stop
to
a
north.
second, Brian.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah,
from there, I would walk
Edabear,
east
stop,
and
stop,
gradually.
stop, stop,
the Eiffel
stop,
Tower-
stop,
Hang on.
stop.
No,
No,
I'm
you're talking straight through the middle of Brian. So he addressed your straw man. He's like, I'm not indigo. And then he carried on and you just started rumpusing him. So if you don't mind, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. You said yesterday the east and west were perpendicular to north. That's two straight lines making two 90-degree angles, right? One either side of the straight line to north. So that means that east and west has to be at two opposite ends of a straight line. So how does that work?
Why?
When I can go west from America and end up in
It's
Asia.
the third
east from
time you've
Ireland
done
and
it,
end up in Asia.
Edabear. He wants
Keep
to
doing it.
concisely lay down his claim, and every time he gets to the point that annihilates your stupid nonsense where you've got straight lines that are actually circles, you rumpus him. You've done it every time.
Sounds like the globe.
Yeah, you've done it every time.
Yeah. Because,
Yeah.
Elderbear, you know what the problem is? You think that you have epic information, but you don't. So I'll ask you again.
No, I don't have questions.
Perpendicular
questions.
is two straight lines. So if east and west are perpendicular to north, that would mean that there's a straight line to north, and east and west are perpendicular. That's 90-degree angles at either side of that straight line. That means they're at the opposite end of, two opposite ends of the same straight line. Now, how is that possible? If I can go west from America and end up in Asia, and I can go east from Ireland or England, you can go east and end up in Asia. So how can that work when the two ends of a straight line can't ever meet?
I can't do that.
But who said that you can have a perpendicular, actually, a right angle between a curve and the...
Please,
Deco guy, I'm trying to keep order.
I can't do that, and I haven't done that.
You can't do what?
But, so I can't go...
You can't do what?
Well, I can't walk east. I haven't done that. I can't walk east and expect to come back to where I started.
Yeah, well, people do it.
Well, hang on, we're talking about traveling. You can do it.
All right, I know.
Right.
But people have measured the Earth,
you won't because
with the radius,
you won't because you'll
apparently.
end up drowning because you walk into the ocean, right?
I'm
not talking about you walking.
Brian, he's doing it again. He's
Meters.
just yattering through the top of you like a total
But
asshole.
Brian, you had through me.
You know
Jesus,
why? You know why?
through
Because
me.
Elderbear, you know why? You think you have epic information because you're hanging around over at Bev's.
No,
you
I
think
don't.
Bev gives
I'm
you
testing.
epic information. Well, I know for
No,
a
he
fact
doesn't.
that he doesn't. I know for a fact.
No, but
I know
listen,
for
Brian.
a fact.
He's still doing it.
that
He's
I've
still
heard
doing
you
it,
say
Edabear.
things
You're
that are
not
wrong
letting him
on
get a
Bev's,
sentence
and
out.
Bev's not
Brian,
correct you.
Brian, I'm trying to take control. You just keep yammering through the second word of his sentence. No, I'm not. No. You're making it inaudible.
That's
Please,
right.
can you stop? Please, now you're doing it to me. While I request that you stop doing it. Please, can you stop doing that, Edabear?
So, Elderbear, are you going to address your
Immediately, just kick him out. The guy's an asshole.
No,
Within
listen,
one breath
there's a
of
gap.
me
I
asking him
didn't
to
know
not
whether
do
Brian
it,
was talking or me.
he's doing it
It's Brian.
straight
Carry
through
on,
me.
Brian.
One of the server mods, please, can you just remove him from the call? He's an asshole. Don't want to deal with him anymore. Sick of having to raise my voice
to
for him.
derail the show. I keep telling you that.
Yeah,
but
he's
the point is I
decided.
wanted to hold him
Hold
down.
on, Brian. He's decided he wants audio chaos. He wants the show to be garbage, so he's going to yammer and yatter through the top of every second word Brian says. He's had 3 attempts to listen to How Can I Go Round and meet myself at the same point I started, basically in a circle, if you're saying their lines. Every single time Brian's come to make that question of him, he rumpused him. That's the fact.
He did it yesterday.
Hello,
too.
may I ask a question?
Bev does the same thing. Bev will talk straight through you when you're trying to say something to him. He'll ask you a question, try and tell him something, and he'll talk straight through you. You know what I mean? He's over on Bev's thinking he's getting epic information. Who do you think told him that east and west was perpendicular to north? Where do you think he got
Brian,
that from?
you went over that 5 times yesterday and again today, and he's still talking right through you at the end. He's a derailer, and he just wants a shit show.
East and west.
One.
East and west are perpendicular in the compass.
That's the compass node.
Right. Not reality.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
May I ask a question?
Yes, fine.
Thank you. I'm just going to put something in the side, the main text chat. I just wanted to ask Mr. Oakley. I mean, this is a measure of the last 2 months of your views on videos. How do you feel the fact that your channel is not growing? It's actually decreasing in terms of popularity.
Right, we went through this
How do you
yesterday.
feel about that? How do you feel about it? It's decreasing.
Are you
No
going to let
one's
me answer?
watching. No
Sorry,
one's watching.
now that you've got your claim, are you going to let me answer? So you haven't got the correct statistics. You don't have access to my statistics. I've already gone through this with you yesterday. What you have gleaned isn't my statistics. When I told you that my channel's not receding in views, it's growing.
Yes,
Those are based
yes,
on.
It is.
So what you actually want to do,
prove it
geeks,
wrong.
you don't want a
But you won't prove it
discussion,
wrong.
geeks. What you want to do is chant through the top of me like the last asshole did. You want to chant your narrative through the top of my response, which is to say that
My
you
true
have,
narrative, yes.
yeah, your narrative is that my channel's dying. I heard it yesterday.
It is dying. No one's.
I heard you chant it through me. Now you're chanting it through my response, which is to say, no, it isn't. I watch my statistics daily. It is not dying. It is growing. I can show my statistics. I'm not going to show you based on the fact that you want to punt a narrative that it's doing something else based on the limited statistics that you have gleaned. Have you measured every single one of my, 4,000 videos to see what they all do collectively? Of course you haven't. It's absolute outrage. You've got a narrative that you want to punt. Your narrative is flat Earth is dying. And the way you're going to punt that narrative is by telling me my channel's dying. By looking at a limited amount of statistics that you can glean and say, by my estimation, your channel's dying. No, it is not. It is growing. I watched the stats.
Can I just interrupt again for a minute?
Oh, then post the stats if you can prove it. But it's not. It's not. It's dying. No one's watching. Less people
So
watching.
you keep repeating
Sorry.
your narrative. Yeah? You're not going
Yes, I
through
am. Yeah, that is my
stats.
narrative.
You're not
That's my
going
claim.
through
That's
where
my
you've got
claim.
the information. You didn't answer my question. I asked you a question about the videos that I've got. Have you assessed all of the videos and how much views all of them collectively acquire? Yes or no?
I have. I have. These
Where
are
have you
the last
acquired this information from?
statistics from YouTube, and it's dying. No one's watching. Less and
Where
less
did you
people
get
are
the
watching.
statistics from?
God, kick him
Ooh,
out.
now that is a good question, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm asked it 4 times.
No, I'm not going to tell you, but it's dying.
You're not going
What
to
is-
tell me. YouTube don't publish my statistics. They're my statistics. I get access to my statistics. You don't. You get Social Blade and other garbage gleamings of statistics that don't offer any real information. That's what you
yes,
get.
I do. Yes, I do. That's what I see. I know what's going on in the background, sir. And your
So
channel's
what,
dying.
even if it's
Does that
dying,
piss
does
you
it
off?
mean that
Does
he's
it anger
wrong?
you? Does it piss
Quiet,
you off that no
quiet
one's
for a
watching?
second.
Less and
Yeah,
less.
it does piss me off. It pisses me off because it's not true.
Oh, if it's not true, then you have no problem with posting your statistics. Go ahead, do it, do it, do it. I dare you.
Why would I justify
What
you
is the
telling me
relevance?
about my statistics? I am interested in my statistics. I'll watch what my growth does and I'll react. You'll know when my channel's doing badly and it's not growing because you'll see me churn out hundreds of videos, edited videos that have taken hours and hours of work to produce to make sure the needle's going in the right direction. Just for my audience's benefit, while I'm going through this with the Discord line server shut, he has yammered non-stop through the top of my disclaimer. He hasn't listened to a single word I've said. Now one of the moderators has had to server mute him because he's decided he wants to push his narrative through the top of what I'm disclaiming. If my channel is doing badly, you'll know about what is your malfunction? Vitaco, have some bloody mic discipline. I'm in the middle of a sentence. You'll know when I'm doing badly because I'll be doing something about it. That is to say, churning out lots of short videos, lots of shorts, lots of 10-minute videos and 30-minute clips. That's what you'll see happening when I see the statistics go down.
My bad. Can I put a
Nathan,
sentence
you
in?
don't have to answer to this guy, Nathan. Kick him out.
What is the relevance? What's
There
the
is no relevance. He's got a narrative. Flat Earth's dying. That's his narrative.
No,
That's
not
it.
Flat Earth. Your channel. Your channel is dying.
Well, it isn't.
No one cares about what you guys have to say in this channel.
Okay,
Yeah,
what are you doing here?
let me get it
What the
straight.
fuck are you doing here then?
Let me get it straight. That's contradictory. By virtue of you putting effort into apparently studying my statistics, saying that nobody cares when you're going out of your way personally to study the statistics of the channel. That's absurd.
It is. Can we move away from it now?
Go ahead. What's your question?
So I pasted that I can't even call it a chart or whatever, an image of how I imagine that non-experiment or however we're going to call it, with a stick and an arm. I don't know if you've seen it.
It's in Master B.
No, okay.
Unitox
In
Femis.
the main,
Sorry, just a quick shout out to Unitox Femis. Is your channel doing badly? Water will start to curve. Yeah. So we're back onto
If water started to curve.
We're back onto some non-experiment.
the non-experiment,
Just
exactly.
real quick
Let me
before
just. Yeah.
Wow, this how hilarious.
Yeah, Eli's been trying to get in, man.
Oh look,
Let
there's
me
the
just.
stick
It's
at
okay.
a
He pasted it
particular.
again.
There's the stick at a particular angle that would be unreadable if it weren't an angle. So you have the angle of the stick, and then you have what's happening on the arm.
Okay, but why are you focusing so much on this angle
Why
between
am I
the
not
stick and the
skipping a
ground?
step, which is what I told you in the beginning? Why do you feel the need to skip the most important step to tell us that
Because
it's
it
irrelevant
isn't important at
and
all.
not necessary?
Yeah, because I'm saying that that angle is complete.
That
What?
angle's not possible if the ground's curved. That's the point.
Yeah, but the angle is irrelevant.
Sorry, it's not possible.
I haven't.
It's your description of an angle, though, isn't it? Right? You're saying it's irrelevant. It's part of your example, and it's only possible if Earth's flat. Now we focus on that specific aspect.
No, that is not true. That is not true. Why do you say that it's only possible if the Earth is
Hold on.
flat?
So if it's not true, then rather than say the baseline is irrelevant, prove that it's non sequitur to the conversation. Because you just saying it's irrelevant, and then when Nathan says no, this is why it is relevant, you're saying it's not true. Well, you're dismissing it, not addressing it, and trying to move past it at the same time. I don't understand.
Okay, let me address it. If I have any type of object, whether it's a ball, a sphere, a cube, whatever it is, curved, flat, whatever, any type of 3D object, and I have some kind of object in the distance, I can always stick a stick into this first object and point the other end of the stick into the other object. It's completely irrelevant of what shape the first object is. Is that true or false?
Hold on. Your example that you have a baseline, a horizontal line. What's that?
That's just an example there. It can be curved, it can be triangular.
No. Your example is flat. It's a horizontal baseline.
It is flat in the example, but it can also be curved. It's irrelevant.
No, it cannot be any other way. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the angle like your example has. With a stick, forming an angle to the baseline.
No,
without the baseline, you don't have the angle. That's the point. You cannot have the angle from a curved baseline.
Because I don't need one. I just given you an example before. You weren't following. If I had let's say a ball, a small ball in my room,
you wouldn't have a baseline then.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a baseline. I'm telling that it's irrelevant. So if I have a
baseline on a ball.
I don't need a baseline. I just need the stick. I don't care about a baseline or the angle. I just need a stick.
You don't have the angle then.
I don't need the angle. How many times do I have to repeat it? I don't care about the angle. Listen to me.
Example. Your example has 2 angles there.
Okay, fine.
It does.
Okay. So everyone stop a second. Okay. You're saying this baseline, it doesn't matter whether or not you've got a circle at the point that we would call the vertex on screen, or a horizontal plane of reference. You're saying it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Okay.
I don't care about it.
There's a second part to that. Okay. So in your example, right, where does this have a practical use in the real world? When is this going to be useful for something?
That's exactly what I was trying to get to. So if I can stab a stick into the ground and point the other star at Polaris, which I can always in the real world, and if looking hypothetically in the ball Earth model and in the flat Earth model, I can do it always. It can always stab a stick into the ground and point the other side at Polaris, attach an arm at it, and try to use that arm by not changing the angle between the arm and the stick. I should be able to track any celestial object, star, sun, moon, whatever, using the arm on the ball Earth model.
Okay,
But
maybe
not.
you did, okay, stop. I heard it the first 4 times, what you've described. I've even got a diagram of it on screen. My question was, what will this be practically used for? Okay, tracking stars. Does that have a practical application in the real world? What's it useful for?
That's what I was just about to say in the next sentence. So the whole point of this thing is that it behaves differently on a hypothetical ball and in the real world, and it can be used to prove that the celestial objects are not moving as if the way they should be moving if the Earth was a ball and rotating. That's the practical application.
Okay. So beyond a false dichotomy that you've created, does it have any real-world practical use that you can use it for?
No.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. No, it does not. Meanwhile...
No, it does not.
No. Meanwhile, we do actually navigate the ground by measuring angles to things like Polaris. Were you aware of that?
Yes, of course.
Were you aware that... Okay, thank you. I'm leading you now. I listened. Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, that means shut up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I will if you don't give me permission. Instead, close your mic. I'm just waiting for the next interruption, frankly. You've got your mic wide open. Thank you. Now, in reality, we do use angles measured off a flat plane to navigate with. You can literally save your life when lost at sea if you understand the principle of angles off a flat plane. Now, your example, you say, is useful for disproving... Whoever's off mute in G+, please, can you mute? Eli, please, can you mute?
Okay, 1 second. Walking to my phone.
There are practical applications that just require a flat plane and an angle from it to the Polaris that you said. It doesn't matter about whether or not the ground has got a curve to it in my example, because my example doesn't have a practical use in reality, but can show how it won't work on a globe. That's not very useful. But the actual method of measuring angles to stars off a flat Earth is useful. Therefore, a much, much better example.
Yeah, see, he's new. He just came in. We're not debunking the globe anymore. We're proving Earth is flat.
No, that's okay. I don't know why we went on this sideline of usefulness and non-usefulness, but I didn't get this impression that we only have to talk about things that are practically useful in the real world. I know
yeah, because
that,
we're ridiculed because we're ridiculed as flat earthers, and therefore, if I'm going to say Earth is flat, I want to be able to present to an audience a stone-cold fact that is useful to save lives, because the strength behind it is immense. Meanwhile, an example that says I can show how the globe would, maybe, should, could work in an example that I conjure, where in the example I've got both a globe and a flat Earth, and it doesn't really matter which one we draw a stick in the ground to, not actually do anything useful with, because this will be a really confusing example that even I, after 3 explanations from you, still didn't follow along with. Meanwhile, we do have actual processes in place used to this day that show beyond any doubt Earth is being measured flat. That's what I want as a flat earther, and I hope my audience want the same.
No, that's perfectly fine, but you made an absolutely horrible mischaracterization of what I've done there. What I've done with that procedure is created a procedure that does not work on the ball according to the way that the sun, moon, and the stars are moving through the sky. That is useful. You cannot say it's not useful just because it won't save lives of somebody who's trying to navigate through the seas.
Okay. Will you tell me what it's used for to be useful?
It's used to show that the ball Earth model is not real. That the reality around us does not comport to it. That's what it's used for.
Did you hear what Neil just said to you? Yeah, we don't do that anymore. There's no need. right? We don't have to go around disproving the ball when we can prove it's flat and show how the ball that's inferred in your model that you're using in your example came from flat Earth measurements. So to have a juxtaposition between ball with sticking ground or flat with sticking ground first requires you measure Earth flat to make the inference that you can have a ball model example to juxtapose that you have done. But in practical terms, there's nothing useful in your example.
I don't agree with that at all. I don't know how you come to that conclusion. There is nothing useful. If you mean by useful that you can use it in some kind of real world activity
But you do understand, because you agreed that you even took issue with the fact that he's saying practical, because you said you don't understand why it has to be practical. So when he says useful, he's talking about useful for doing something in the real world, like doing something as in maybe traveling, maybe getting a position, something useful like that. Not the only use would be to argue it in a debate.
Let me give it
not just that useful.
Perfect, exactly, Eli.
Okay,
just to compare and contrast, just for your benefit, right? By contrast, when the globe earthers assert that we have a physical geometric sphere edge called Earth curve at their horizon and our horizon, that has no practical use. There's nothing useful beyond claiming that you've got a globe Earth proof, see? It doesn't have any practical use. So when we argue about what the horizon is or isn't, it's kind of moot, because they have a positive claim that it's Earth curve, but in reality, that claim that it's Earth curve only serves its own purpose to prove that the horizon's Earth curve in their mind. But what do you actually use that for? Nothing. Where could it be practically applied? Well, it is. It's in the site reduction tables over a flat plane when measuring angles to the stars that were used to delineate the positions on the globe. So it's critical to understand how these things get practically applied, because they're where the globe that you're using in your juxtaposition example came to fruition in the first place. That's how the globe came to pass, with these angles to the stars. For you to compare and contrast to a globe model with the stars measured from... No, it doesn't exist.
Okay, but from this point of view that you're using it practical and in real life, how many people are actually practically in real life doing any sort of navigation? So
everybody, every single aeroplane in the sky's got a backup sextant on board.
No, that's perfectly fine. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your average day-to-day person that you go buy bread from.
Well, how many people do you think live on the coast with boats? Plenty.
Okay, fair enough. But I'm still, if you are going to compare how many people can stick a stick into the ground, stab a stick into the ground and add an arm to it and try to track some stars, compared to how many people have some kind of equipment to navigate.
Okay, we'll set up two shops, one next door to the other. One educates people on sticking sticks in the ground to prove our globe doesn't work. The other will educate people on celestial navigation so that they can go out to sea and potentially not die. Which one do you think is going to have the queue?
Okay, let's say that you're right about that. But what if you wanted to spread out the truth of the flat Earth and you wanted to give people some kind of experiment that they can do
Here we are,
home
back to using experiments.
very easily? Oh, excuse me, not experiment. Okay, something else, procedure, whatever. So if you wanted to give them some kind of a procedure that they could do from their homes, show to their kids, it's very easy, practical, which one do you think would be better?
Celestial navigation. TB, shout out to you in the chat who answered the question from the chat while you were asking the question. My audience knows that I can give them that practical example that proves Earth's measured flat. It's called celestial navigation.
No, I'm not asking that. I'm asking how many of them have done any celestial navigation and how easy and feasible it is to do it compared to stick a stick into the ground. So from that point of view, this is much easier.
You're missing the point. For what? Nobody cares about sticking sticks in the ground to disprove globes. But people do care about dying. People do care about dying at sea. Now you're saying, well, how many of your audience have done it? Well, my sister's an audience member, very, 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 very occasionally. And she used to own several boats and had to be trained in celestial navigation in order to go out on them at sea. So, how useful is it? Well, a member of my family's had to be trained in celestial navigation, which requires a flat Earth to do. And I'm sure there's plenty of people, one of them's Johnny on the panel, who's been out and uses celestial navigation when he was a ship's captain. So you're saying, okay, well, there's two examples. But what, based on the fact that landlocked people don't use this example, you think a better example would be to use some juxtaposition that first requires we measure a flat Earth to derive an idea, mathematically, of a globe, so you can show how that mathematical idea of a globe that came from a flat Earth doesn't work. That's not useful.
Yeah, that's what he's missing.
It's not useful
it all comes from flat Earth.
Because you... Go ahead.
You're saying it all comes from a flat Earth in the first place. That's what John was trying to get across to you when you're like, you're comparing a flat Earth to a flat Earth, and you're like, no, I'm not. Think about it as a globe. Well, yeah, the way you think about it as being a globe is by taking elevation angles, deriving radial values, and then superimposing those areas of equal elevation onto a sphere. So, okay, let's do all that first, and then picture how we'll stick a stick, and then picture how we'll stick a stick in it.
No, it is not correct, because I already said that I could take a ball, physical ball, like a tennis ball or whatever, and stab a stick into that and do the same experiment from that. So I don't need a flat surface. That's the whole point. It works from starting from a non-existent ball Earth model. It works starting from the real flat world that we are in. It works in both cases, and it's useful for people who have no access to any kind of celestial navigation equipment, who are not at sea, who are not flat earthers for 10 years. So I don't really agree that it's not useful.
Bro, you don't need to...
Pardon me.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
When you think you put a stick in a ball, do you think that forms an angle?
No, I don't know why you keep getting drawn back to an angle. I don't care if there is or isn't an angle. All I care is that stick points towards the Polaris. I don't care if it's not stuck into anything on the other end. I don't care if it's floating in air. I don't care about an angle. All I care is that stick is pointing at Polaris.
Let me tell you why. Because when you're wanting to compare the two models that you're talking about the celestial sphere model and a projection from that. You're not talking about a curved Earth.
I'm not following you here exactly.
The description of a ball comes from measurements of a flat plane. That's the point.
You mean description of the ball Earth comes from the measurement of the flat plane?
Yes.
Right. Once you establish that, you don't need to stick any sticks in a ball.
No, that's correct. I do agree that they've taken measurements of the real flat world and created a ball from that. But that's not the point. I don't care about any of that. I can literally imagine a vacuum with just the stars.
Okay, stop. So let me just take you through it. So you don't care that to create the ball that you want us to stick the stick in, that ball's been created from a flat plane measurement in the first instance, but let's just hand wave our way past the fact that the ball that you're describing Earth to be comes from flat Earth measurements, because you're going to be sticking in a stick.
No. The way you presented that, it sounds like I don't care that they've taken the real flat world and pulled the wool over everybody's eyes and created a fictional ball.
But
I'm not taking about
what you're saying is let's ignore that for this hypothetical
No.
That I'll be
disproving
with another hypothetical unrealistic in a vacuum situation.
That's you have this kind of reflex.
Why are you saying no? Why are you saying no?
Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you. I have a feeling that you've all gotten this impression that I'm trying to say.
What did I say that you interrupted? That you're rebutting? What did I say?
You said the same thing that Nathan said, that I'm trying to completely ignore and discard the fact
what else did I say?
that
What else did I say? The reasons. Why did I justify me saying that to you? So that you wouldn't be able to just say, no, I'm not doing that. What else did I say?
I don't know. Maybe I missed something.
You don't know because he was talking.
Right. Because when someone's going to say that you're doing something, you wait for them to justify why they're saying it before you say that's bullshit. Because if they justified it, you can't say it's bullshit.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Eli.
my problem. Go ahead.
See what happens with Edit Bear? Everybody starts to do it.
We're waiting for Eli to reiterate his point that he's just cleared the air for.
So you already admitted it's a hypothetical situation in a vacuum that you'll be using to basically confirm or invalidate another hypothetical situation that will have no practical use anywhere. So for example, we could be talking about a game of Mario. And I could say, well, this will work this way, but if I do this, it'll work another way. But it'd be divorced from reality. You said yourself that it's in a vacuum. We're not worried about anything else other than a stick and another stick.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So your point, if I got it right, is that I'm making a case that is completely fictional, devoid of reality, and has no practical use anywhere. Did I get that right?
Not exactly. You're whistling past the graveyard. The model that you're saying could be the stick that's being stuck into requires a flat earth to measure to create that sphere model to stick your stick in to say it doesn't work. And the panel's trying to say to you, you're whistling past the graveyard. That's what they're trying to tell you.
Okay, well, I don't agree with that.
Once you
don't agree with that because
I'm not sure he was trying to say something. Okay, so I disagree with that because the way you're presenting that, it sounds as if though I've just created this fictional thing, no use for it whatsoever. It's just some kind of a theoretical discussion, useless.
No, that's not. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying ipso facto, the globe model that doesn't exist that you're using, that only exists in maths, comes out of flat Earth measurements first, for you to then describe that model with a stick in it. Therefore, whistling past the graveyard of this needs a flat Earth to even describe it prior to sticking a stick in it, you've got to have measured a flat Earth to get it. That is the most important bit.
No, but that is not correct. Why do you say they have to measure the flat Earth to get this model at all?
Thank you for the colour commentary through the top of this, Neil. Can you please go on mute? Yeah, because you're measuring angles. Because you're measuring angles to Polaris to get the ball.
I'm not.
My bad. Middle of a statement, middle of a sentence that you're now chanting through.
Okay. Pardon. Go ahead.
You don't need to give me permission. You just don't chant through me. No, in order to infer the ball that you're denying, you first measure the radial value off a flat plane. It's the minimum elevation angle measurement to Polaris to give you the radial value so that the ball will back calculate into the measurements that are angles off that flat plane. It has to back calculate. Therefore, you have to have a minimum elevation angle measurement to Polaris, giving you the outside edge of the ball that you'll be sticking your stick in. So while you say, oh, how can you say that the ball came from flat Earth measurements? Because it did. That's how we can say it. Therefore, when you ignore that fact, and it's taken a solid hour for us to get it drummed into you, that the ball you're using in your example came from flat Earth measurements. Your first words, axis. That's a description with respect to a plane of reference. To have an axis. All of these descriptions require flat plane measurements in the first respect. So it's whistling past the graveyard to say, okay, as you did, although you're now denying it, I accept that it's measured off a flat plane to give me the ball, but if I've got the ball that came from a flat plane, I can stick a stick in it and show it how it doesn't work. Make sense?
No, absolutely not. That's just complete nonsense. Let's just blow up the Earth and leave a tiny chunk of Earth the size of 1 by 1 meter. Can I stab a stick into that tiny chunk and point it into Polaris, even though the entire Earth is completely gone?
Why would you want to? That's what we're trying to say to
Yeah,
you.
and this is
No, no,
useful
no,
for
no,
what?
no, no, no.
This is so hyper
No, no,
specific.
no, 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 no,
It
no.
becomes.
No, 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 no.
You don't have
do
to
that.
no,
Don't
no,
do
no
that,
through the
please.
top of me. It's
Don't
become
do that,
hello,
please.
hello. It's
If we
become
just ask-
Okay.
hello.
Hold on.
It's become so hyper specific that it's useless.
What kind of
Did
an
he just say
argument
he
is
was going
that?
to stick a stick in the ground with no earth?
1 meter by 1
I
meter.
did not say
It's
that.
got a 1 meter by
No,
1
I
meter
said
section that's got no
exactly. Let's blow up the entire Earth. Everything is gone. There's just a little cube, 1 by 1 by 1. And can I stab? The stars are in the same
Yes,
place.
you can.
I
Yes.
stab a stick into it and
Yeah,
point it into
yeah, you can.
Polaris?
You can.
So why do you say that I need some kind of measurements of Earth to do that simple, super duper trivial process of stabbing a freaking stick into the ground and pointing it into Polaris?
2 reasons.
What kind of measurements do I need?
2 reasons. 1, because it has absolutely no practical use to anybody ever, beyond whistling past the graveyard about a reified globe model and how you can stick a stick in that. That's the first reason. The second reason is because we here at Flat Earth Debate actually want to prove to the audience Earth is measured flat, and showing them how in a practically applied methodology it is measured flat. That's very useful. Rather than confusing people by blowing up the entire Earth and having a 1 meter by 1 meter section to stick a stick in. That's useless to everyone. We prove Earth's measured flat. You're giving a convoluted gaggle screw of an example that has to have your opponent reify a sphere into existence from a flat plane measurement for you to stick a stick in it.
The reason I created that hyper imaginary example because I couldn't get you guys to accept the super duper simple fact that I can stab a bloody stick into a ground and point it into a star.
Oh my
You keep
gosh.
going around about measurements and we need practical to point. Great.
Yeah,
But
we
why
do.
can't you just grant me the thing that I can stab a stick into the ground and point it into a star without going to measurements?
Okay,
of
let me
the
answer you.
Earth,
I'll tell you why. Because
etc.?
in this neck of the
What?
woods, newbie, we are hyper-specific about proving things. We're pedantic about our details. We want to be able to give examples that are useful to people in the audience, that they can relate to the next man with an example that's actually documented. Your example has none of those things. Therefore, to the audience, they're not going to go away with your example and go, oh, I'm going to go to next man and show him how the globe doesn't work if he reifies a 1 meter by 1 meter square that could be from a flat Earth or could be from a globe Earth, and you stick a stick in it. Nobody's finding that useful. Now you're like, well, all I wanted to do is come along and show how I've got a useful example for debunking the globe. We're saying we've moved past that. Now we're showing how Earth's actually dealt with and measured, and it's flat, and it has practical uses that cannot be denied. Further to their non-denial, the globe comes from those measurements. That's far more impactful. Sorry your example hasn't pad that out as a wonderful globe debunking.
That's the key point. The globe came from them measurements. So why would you use it? It don't make sense to me.
Maybe we should
There's too much
answer the
stuff.
question why you sticking this stick to the ground. Why you doing this, sir? Answer
Well,
to that question.
I would answer that question if I haven't been interrupted 55 times that it's not useful to anybody, that we need to give people powerful techniques that are useful in everyday life that will convince everybody. I don't know why you can't allow a simple example that is not hyper useful, hyper specific, etc. You could have just gracefully glided over it and said, great, you can stab the stick into the ground, point it into Polaris, attach an arm onto it and track the stars and show that on the ball it wouldn't work.
Why?
On a flat Earth it would work. And it would great. Because a kid of 5 years old can do that, but they cannot get equipment for celestial navigation. And you can show it to 500 kindergartners, to their parents. You can do it in 2 minutes outside on a sunny day with the sun on a roof of your car with a toothpick. But you can't do that with celestial navigation. which is okay. It's
would you
more
go
useful.
through?
It's used
Would
in
everyone please allow this man?
He missed it.
Would everyone please allow this man? Hang on, Neil, please. Would everyone please allow this man to just go through what it is he wants to go through? Just allow him to do that. And
Yes,
he
we've
can
had
say
it,
whether you're interested.
we have. We had it on screen, Brian. I don't know if you weren't here when we've done it.
So
We have.
what was the? How does what does it do? What's the point of this?
the point of the example that I was giving, the non-experiment.
Yeah, what's the
Is
point
that
of
what you're asking?
what you're doing? What are you proving or disproving with it? What does it do?
So I'm disproving the ball earth model by showing that if you do this thing that I've said, so you stab a stick into the ground, point the other end into Polaris, that's the stick, you attach an arm onto it under some angle between the stick and the arm, and you point the arm into any celestial object, star, sun, moon, you should be able to track that celestial object as it's moving through the sky with this arm throughout the entire day or whatever it is. If we are on the ball, you should be just able to rotate the stick, and this arm should be pointing at this celestial object throughout its entire motion through the sky. But obviously on a flat earth, that's not going to be possible, because the movement of the celestial objects does not come from the fact that we are rotating. It's come from the fact that they are moving
Hang on a
above
second. I need
us.
to ask you a question. When you're saying if we stick these sticks in the ground and point one of them to Polaris and one to a star, are you saying that if we're on a globe, we won't have to do anything with that stick? Is that what you're saying?
What did you say? We won't have to do what?
Anything with the stick. I don't understand what your claim is, because we're on a globe, right? Within the globe paradigm, they just state that their globe is rotating at a sidereal rate, whereas we state that in reality it's the star fields, the main star fields, that are rotating at a sidereal rate. So the rate will be exactly the same. They are hijacking the real rate. They are hijacking that 23 hours 56 minutes of sidereal rotation. So the rate will be no different.
It's not about the rate.
So I don't know what you're proving or disproving.
It's not about the rate. It's about the trajectories, the path that the celestial objects are taking on the celestial plane. When we look at them, if you were to track how some star is moving through the sky, you should be able to point that arm and rotate the stick, and you should be able to track that star through the sky without changing the angle between the stick and the arm if we are on a globe. But since we are not, you will not be able to do that.
No, because they're going to claim that their angles are going to be coming from the center, which is from their equatorial flat plane. So they are going to match it, because all their angles are going to come from their equatorial plane. That's how they do it. So their angles won't be coming from the surface of a globe. All their calculations and angles will be from the equatorial flat plane, and they will put them at equinox to extend that equatorial plane out into the celestial plane. So they'll be using a massive flat plane, same as you. And they'll pre-assume that the stars are rotating even for it. Do you understand? They'll even pre-assume that the stars are rotating. So that's how they'll explain it to you. They'll put it on a massive flat plane and make the sky move.
No, I don't think that's relevant to my example. Let me just give you an example.
No,
For example,
hold on. Everyone stop. Everyone stop.
Yeah.
No, he's not suggesting that's your example. He's suggesting that's globe Earth rhetoric and how they would describe what you have posed as a problem on the surface. Did you understand that he described transposition to the equatorial plane? And do you know what that means?
No.
Well then, okay. This is kind of frustrating, because we're trying to say to you, there's certain steps in this process that you've whistled past that you don't appreciate, and you're giving us examples of how things would work on the top of a ball Earth. But in reality, when they describe mapping and navigation with respect to a ball after Havre-Sign conversion, they use the equatorial plane inside the ball to get around the problems that you're trying to raise.
Yeah, they're not using the surface of the globe for any of this.
Mate, you don't have to immediately murmur through the top of Brian. He's trying to explain how this works to you now. Inside the globe.
I'm listening.
You're not. You're going, through the top of him.
No, I've just
They're
done
not
that for a
going to
half
Now
use
you're
the
second.
yattering
surface of the
again.
globe.
Now you're yattering. You don't seem to know when you should be listening and being educated by people who know this stuff better than you. You think you've got a great example that takes place on the top of a sphere. In reality, if you were actually arguing with a ball believer who had exemplary knowledge like we have of how they actually utilize a ball, then they would explain to you that their globe works with an equatorial plane that's transposed because the angles come from the center of the sphere. Because of parallel light that's almost parallel because the distance is so far, but we can essentially and effectively work these angles that aren't possible from the surface because the surface is curved to the center of a ball where we use an equatorial plane. That's how it's actually done by globe believers. Still requires a flat plane to get angles. It's just in the middle of the ball. That's how they'd get around your problem if you were to pose it to them.
Yeah.
That does not get around this problem at all.
1 second. If I'm a
Stop,
glober
stop, Brian.
and
Stop,
you
stop, stop,
present-
stop, stop. You're saying that doesn't get around this problem. No, you're not listening. That is how the globe gets around the problem you're proposing with this differential off a line to Polaris from a curved surface. That is what globe believers do. We know. We've studied it. Now you're saying, well, that's not how my example works. Yeah, who cares? There's an entire Western world religion that tells us how they will get around the problem you're proposing. You saying, well, I don't think that's how... Yeah, that is how they do it. We know how they do it. We also know that it requires a flat earth. That in every single example that we've tried to drill into you, you whistle past. In this example, with the angle from the surface, straight line that you've stuck into a ball, what they would say is the line that you stuck in to Polaris goes to the center of the sphere, at the equatorial plane. Now, whether or not you've acknowledged that or
completely
sinks in is
irrelevant.
irrelevant. It's for my audience at this point.
Yeah, that's
Let me give
still
it to him,
completely
Nathan.
irrelevant.
Let me give it to you as a glober.
He
Let
wants
me
to
give it to you
object.
what a
Just
globe
let
will
him.
give.
Brian, just let him. That's completely wrong, he says. Frickin' isn't. Go ahead, tell us how wrong we are.
Is there a glober here? Is there a glober here?
No,
No, there's not. There's an ignorant flat earther. We just know better and how the globe claims to get around these problems that we've already investigated.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask an actual glober to tell me how they would object.
Let me
Maybe
tell
you know
what
better.
they'll give you because I have experience.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Yeah, Brian's tried to tell you because he knows how they argue it. We know their position better than they do in most instances. You're like, well, I want a glober to tell me. Oh, do you? Which one?
The reason I wanted to ask a glober because the objection raised is complete nonsense. You didn't even give me anything rational or reasonable to be debatable. You've thrown up a bunch of
Nathan is trying
terms.
to make to you. That's the point. What a glober is going to do is the following. He's going to pre-assume it's equinox. He's going to take your angle and place him at the equatorial plane of his globe. And at equinox, that equatorial plane will extend out into their celestial plane, which means it gives them a much huger flat plane, like kind of like the one we're standing on. Then they will take the angle and show how it works from their flat plane at the center of their globe at equinox, and then they will bring you to stellarium and show you working in stellarium, because stellarium is based off of that nonsense. They will not be on the surface of the globe doing anything, but they'll tell you the globe is proven after they've used a flat plane, and more than that, they will even state that the stars are moving. They'll even use in their calculations that the Earth is stationary and the stars are moving within their calculations to come back to you and say globe proven. That's what they'll do.
Okay,
They didn't use a rotating globe at all. That's the point. Nathan is trying to say it to you. Everyone's trying to say it to you, but you're not listening.
I am listening, but what you've just said is complete nonsense again for a very simple reason.
It's not nonsense.
We
That's
don't know, mate.
God.
That's just rude, right? It's not nonsense. You didn't know how it worked. You haven't studied it, but you're like appealing to some random glober that's going to tell you different. When we've studied it extensively and know how they claim to present this problem to a globe-believing audience, we do know. You're like, that's nonsense. Well, okay, on the one hand, yeah.
No, I wanted to give an answer, but you don't allow me.
Well, I'm just going to tell you, on the one hand, yeah, it is nonsense, because you can't take angles from hell. We're not inside a ball. on an equatorial plane that's described with a globe wrapped around it. Now, that is nonsense, but we're just telling you what they'll tell us in response to a propositional claim that you've put that starts with a line out to Polaris from a globe surface, or flat Earth in your juxtaposition. Well, when you do it from the globe, they'll say, well, that line goes to the center, because all lines to the surface are parallel from lights that are very far away, therefore perfectly reasonable to run this from the center of hell. Now, you may not like that, and it is nonsense, but that is still what they do.
No. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not saying that it's that I don't like that they draw this line from the center of the earth.
Brian say that's nonsense? Let's start there. What did he say that you're calling nonsense? His words.
He said that they will draw this line from the center of the earth, or he was talking about equatorial plane. The same thing applies. If you reduce the entire earth to a single dot instead of the ball, the example that I gave works exactly the same to the millimeter. No issues at all. It will still not work in there.
If the earth is rotating, yes? If the earth is rotating.
Well, if you reduce it to a dot, it doesn't rotate. It's just a dot. You have your stick from any kind of an object. Then there is no rotation. You just have a stick from your dot.
So what you're saying is a stationary angle. Two sticks making a stationary angle. You're just claiming that debunks a globe. How does that debunk a globe and not debunk a flat plane?
Yeah, they're gonna laugh at you.
Very simply, it debunks the globe because the stars are not moving in accordance to this stick and arm pointing towards the star. They are not moving in that manner. So if you remove the earth,
the manner you're talking about, you're trying to say it'll debunk a globe. How will it debunk a globe when the example I've given you is they'll be using a flat stationary plane for all their calculations? So that's what you're claiming. So how can it debunk that without debunking flat Earth as well?
But they cannot use flat Earth if we're starting from
flat. I just went through it with you a few minutes ago. When they do their calculations, they'll be using a flat stationary plane at equinox. So there won't even be a tilt. They won't have a tilt. They won't have a globe. They'll have a flat stationary plane, an extended plane at equinox. That's how their calculations work. So when you're looking for the answer, they'll come back to you with the answer. Then they go and show it to you in Stellarium. You think they haven't come through? You think you have some big proof? You don't. I'm sorry. You don't have it.
Hang on, slowly. If you allow somebody who's arguing against you to start with your model in order to prove their model, then you have a bigger problem than I'm trying to talk about.
Yeah, that's them. Exactly. Now you're getting it. They have a bigger problem to face. The Globers have a bigger problem to face because they need our flat Earth measurements to derive their sphere inference. That's a bigger problem.
Well, exactly. That's a big problem.
That's a big problem for them, and we've spent at least an hour and a half now trying to explain that. First, you have to make your opponent recognise that they're using flat Earth measurements. Once you've got that, that's the end.
I will not allow them to start arguing against flat Earth by starting from flat Earth. They have to start from their own model. If they use some facts from the flat Earth model, I would say, no, that fact does not belong in your model.
Perfect, we're getting somewhere. Okay, good. Perfect. So when you come to these examples with any example that's pointing lines at stars, in all cases, they'll be operational for a globe from the center of the globe in what Brian just described as the extended plane at equinox. That is what they will be using.
And my example works perfectly fine with that. If in that example, you will be pointing that stick from the center of the Earth at Polaris, and the arm will go from the same stick, even though if it goes from the center of the Earth, that arm will still be pointing at any celestial object and will be able to track it by rotating the stick 24/7 all the time.
Right. Okay.
Correct
perfect.
Or not?
Perfect. So flat Earth proven, because the globe's being wrapped around that plane that the angle's coming from at the center of a sphere that you're not using for the measurements. What you're actually doing is proving a flat Earth, because that's how the measurements have just been described. For you to say, well, in this instance, it will work at the center of a globe. No, at the center of a globe is on the equatorial plane, and that's where you're actually standing. if you're making these measurements with respect to the stars. You're on a flat plane measuring from the surface. You're not in hell, you're not in the middle of a globe, but that's how they'll describe it. And when they do, the description does work, because that's how the globe came to fruition.
Okay, well, it's perfectly fine. So they will describe how this two-stick method does track the stars, and then I will go turn around and say, yeah, but in reality, if you do that in actual real world, get away from the computer, go out and do it, really, it does not track the stars or the sun.
No, but
or
it
the moon
does.
or anything.
Stop. But it does work. It works for them in the middle of a globe and for us just on a plane without pretending to be in hell. It just works from a plane. So you're saying, but if I take the bit that doesn't work, the extended globe that's wrapped around the plane that it does work on, it doesn't work. Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, okay, it doesn't work on the surface of a globe. But they're never going to make that argument because they're going to transpose it inside the globe because that's where the back engineering of the globe originates. So it's critical that you, the audience, anybody listening, recognizes that. Rather than saying the globe on the surface fails with the stick pointing to Polaris with another stick off it. Okay, off the surface that doesn't work. Fortunately, the globers have got an explanation for that because you're not paying attention to the parallel light rays. That means we can measure these angles with respect to the center of the globe and turn the globe like it's a protractor, which is what they actually do. But all that really means is you're measuring a flat Earth. That's the critical bit.
Hang on, I don't know if you're following. Let me just ask you a question. With this example that I've given, what do you think is going to happen if it's actually done on this real flat world? If you actually go out, stab a stick into the ground, point it into Polaris, create an arm, and try to track a star, will you be able to track it without changing the angle between the arm and the stick or not?
Why would I be doing this? Will this save my life at sea? Does it have a practical application? Can I make money from it? Can I sell it as a course?
That's not an answer to my question.
So it's useless. What I can do with a line to Polaris is figure out my latitude with just that line to Polaris and a protractor. No expensive tools. I'm just explaining how I can... Excuse me. You've challenged me to whether or not I can just do this on the surface, and I can say no. But I can do something similar, pointing stuff to Polaris. It tells me latitude instantly.
Yeah, it does. I know.
Right, so that's useful.
That's what I've asked you.
That's useful.
I know that it's useful.
Stop.
I know.
Okay,
I don't know why.
Okay, so that proves Earth is measured flat, and that's how that system operates. I don't need interruption. I just need to reiterate my flat Earth proof because I'm proving Earth's flat. That's useful. One step, angle to Polaris. What does it give you? Latitude on a flat plane. The angle can only come from a flat plane, and it's describing circles of equal elevation with respect to Polaris. Equal elevation, that's a flat Earth. That's a flat baseline. That's a flat Earth angle measurement of this star. You want to take us to La La Land so we can juxtapose our globe that doesn't really exist and only comes to fruition by measuring this exact same angle to Polaris. Doesn't work if we stand on the surface, even though when they describe it, they won't be describing it from the surface. They'll be describing parallel light rays that converge at the center of Earth.
Yeah, okay. I give up on you. I cannot get you to answer a simple question because you just keep trying to derail it into something that you want to talk about.
Your whole thing is irrelevant. You're not paying attention.
I am paying attention, but when somebody asks you a simple question, yes or no question, and you don't want to answer it, you want to answer it by saying it's irrelevant, then the person cannot talk to you. Because if they're talking to you about something that is relevant to them and they want to see how you think, and how you reason about things, and 90% of your answers are, it's irrelevant, but the Globers will do this, then it's impossible to communicate to you. I cannot get anything across.
Like Globers think.
Okay, well, maybe you could acknowledge one of the points that we've put back to you, which is to say, would you not see the importance to first acknowledging how Earth is measured flat with an angle to Polaris? Because that's part of your example.
Well, you see, when I answer your question, I say yes. I don't go, but it's irrelevant. I don't go, but, oh, the Globers will do this and that and the other. It's impossible to squeeze any kind of a... Listen to what I'm saying. I just need a few seconds. I won't go on a rant.
For over an hour. Holy shit. John, go ahead.
Okay.
What were you going to say?
My point was that I cannot get an answer, simple answer from you guys most of the time. When you ask me something,
Let me
I
explain it to you.
usually just answer by yes or no. This is how I think. This is how I don't think. I don't go on it's useless. It cannot be used. And just derail the answer in the question. It's impossible to communicate like that.
John's going to answer your question. Go ahead, John.
You're asking us about a simple yes or no. We're pointing out that the emperor has no clothes. You're trying to set up a dichotomy of invisible clothes versus some other model. We're pointing out he's naked, and you're saying that's irrelevant. What are we trying to do then?
No. You got me wrong on the irrelevant part, and you guys are most of the time trying to get back. When I said initially the first time it's irrelevant, that was not to say that the fact that the Earth is flat is irrelevant. When I used the phrase "it's irrelevant," it meant it was directed at the fact that in that procedure that I used, it was irrelevant whether the thing into which I'm stabbing the stick is round or flat or cube or any other shape. That's where the irrelevant phrase was meant to. You immediately redirected it to meaning that I think that's the fact that the Earth is flat is irrelevant. That's not it.
No,
the irrelevant part simply meant.
I followed that completely. What the hell are you babbling about?
I don't know.
Sticks in the ground.
It's been going on for over an hour.
Okay, what's it? Let's make this simple. What's your claim?
So my claim is that when you do this procedure that I've done, that on a hypothetical ball Earth, you can track stars like that, but in the real world outside, if you actually go out, stab that stick into the ground, point it into Polaris, create that arm, and try to track some star, you won't be able to do it because the star will move in a different pattern throughout the sky, not according to that arm.
So what's the claim? What are you trying to prove?
I'm trying to prove that we're not rotating, that the fact that the star trails, the shapes, the way that the stars are moving throughout the sky does not come from the fact, from the hypothetical rotation of the Earth, but it comes from something else, which we know that is the fact that the stars are moving above us and not because we are rotating.
You're trying to prove a stationary Earth with a stick pointing at Polaris and another stick and another part of the stick pointing at another star. You think that that's going to prove that the Earth's not rotating? Really?
Exactly.
Okay,
That's
well,
exactly
go out
it.
and do it. We want you to go out and do it. All right?
Okay.
Get a video camera.
I'll record it. Okay.
Go out and do it.
I will do that.
Then come back.
Okay,
Then come
no
back.
problem. I'll do exactly that. I'll do exactly that.
And then connect your non sequitur, because right now you're in a non sequitur.
Okay, so Vitamin EH says, I stabbed an angry badger once with a broad tip bow. The fecker was charging me. Well, fair enough.
Was the badger rotating?
Very good. We're all very passionate about proving flat Earth, and any examples that come along that have got a worthy outcome to put to an audience, we'll give them their due, and we'll listen and pay attention and reiterate and refine. But when we see it as non sequitur, or as we've put it, whistling past the graveyard, we're just going to say that, you know. Your feelings, unfortunately, don't come into it.
Yeah, I get cringe once they put me on a ball. I start to feel dirty.
Like I said earlier, I find it difficult to conceptualize at all these days.
Yeah, and if once you get it, you'll start laughing. Just like you would laugh at the emperor for being naked, pretty much was my analogy. He just ain't getting it.
Right. Listen, what I would tell this guy is, you came to the right place. Just keep coming every day. Don't get offended. Just keep coming here every day. And you hear that guy that just spoke to you? That's the quantum eraser. He's the general of this army.
Give me a break. No general.
Hey, you can't get away from your
Shut up.
responsibilities.
Clean your nose, Neil. Clean your nose.
Should
He's trying to get away from his responsibility. I'm not the general. Who the hell is then?
Right. With that, I'm going to say if you are watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, picked up a free membership from Jardo, and all that good stuff. Obviously, another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!